Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Sharon Oyella, and today we're going to crochet this cute little bunny. This is just in time for Easter. This is a quick pattern, so if you're looking for something quick to make, this is probably the pattern for you. This is also a video for the complete beginner. I'm going to walk you through all the rows of making the body. I'll show you how to stuff and shape, how to add those eyes and the nose, how to do the toe pads, how to sew everything together. You have the option of a pom-pom tail or a solid tail. I'm using a worsted weight yarn, but you don't have to use the same yarn. If you have something different on hand, all it's going to do is just change the size of your finished bunny. So with that worsted weight yarn, I am using a 4mm hook. I also use a blunt end yarn needle for sewing. I believe this is a size 13. A pair of scissors, of course. I didn't use safety eyes in this pattern. I used yarn. So you need a strand of black yarn and a strand of yarn for your nose. Your stuffing should be soft and springy, so it should spring back when you squeeze it. You need to sew through your bunny, so if you have a rougher or a coarser stuffing, you'll probably end up with clumps. So you want something nice and soft and springy. On my package it says 100% polyester and ideal for toys and pillows. And like all my patterns here on YouTube, there's always a written pattern that can be printed off on my blog, and that link is popping up here. You can click that at any time during this video. In the written pattern, there is a complete supplies list. And if you do make yourselves a little Easter bunny, I would sure love to see it. You can post pictures on my Facebook page or tag me on Instagram. Both of those links are in the description box below. So why don't we just get started? We're going to begin at the top of the head, and we're working our way down to the bottom of the bunny's body. So grab your crochet hooks and let's get started. Alright guys, row 1 is a loop with 6 single crochets. Now this loop that I'm about to show you is the most common way that amigurumi does start. It takes some practice and some getting used to. Once you get the loop down, you'll be so happy, and it's a nice neat way to start amigurumi. There's a couple of different ways to do this loop. I'm going to show you my favorite way. If you don't like this way and it does not work for you, there's another video here on YouTube that I have. It's popping up on your screen right now, and it will show you how to do the same loop in a different way. So watch what I'm doing, and if you can't get this one down, then please try that other one that's up on your screen. And you can click that iCard at any time during this video. So I'm going to take the shorter yarn tail, that's the starting yarn tail, and there's my ball of yarn, and that's called the working yarn. The working yarn is coming off the ball of yarn. So I'm going to take the starting yarn tail, I'm going to wrap it around these 2 fingers twice. So I'm just going to pull it over my hand and wrap around those 2 fingers twice. There's once and twice. Hold the starting yarn tail between my pinky and my thumb, and now the working yarn in between my pinky and my thumb. I'm making a slip knot. I'm going to go through these 2 strings on my finger. I'm going to go to the back. I'm going to grab this yarn here and pull it underneath these 2 strings. Now I have a loop on my hook. I'm going to grab that yarn one more time and pull it through the loop on my hook. And I've just made my slip knot. Now I'm ready to crochet on. I can take it off of my fingers. And now from here it's just a matter of finding a comfortable way of wrapping the yarn for you. Because I'm behind the camera, I tend to over wrap. That gives me a little bit more control because I am behind the camera. So just play around with it a little bit until you find a comfortable way to hold your yarn. Now I'm going to grab onto this ring. I'm going to be pulling this working yarn through the center of this ring 6 times. I'm going to go through, grab the yarn, pull it through the center of the ring. I have 2 loops on my hook, grab the yarn again and pull it through those 2 loops. And there was 1 single crochet. I'm going to repeat that 5 more times. Going through the ring, grab the yarn and pull it through. I have 2 loops, grab the yarn and pull it through those 2 loops. There's my 2nd single crochet. There's my 3rd. And my 4th. 5th. And last one. There's number 6. I've put 6 single crochets into the ring. Now I need to close up the ring, so I'm going to hold on to that slip knot I first made with my finger and my thumb. So if this string here was tangled up in here at all, you just want to pull it out so it's just hanging on the outside. And now I'm going to be pulling one of these 2 strings up from my finger and my thumb. Oh, I got lucky that time. I'm going to keep pulling up until that ring closes. Now I'm going to pull on the starting yarn tail to get rid of this big loop. And there's my circle with 6 single crochets. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a wiggle. I'll pull on that starting yarn tail again to close up any center gap. And there's row 1 with 6 single crochets. Alright my friends, I was reviewing the clip I just filmed and I noticed the white is a little bit too hard for you to see clearly what I'm doing. So what I did was switch colors. I also switched my tabletop and hopefully this will be nice and clear from here on out. So you just continue crocheting along with whatever color you've been using. So this last stitch that we just put in here, that you can pull out with your hook so you don't lose it. You can pull it all the way up, makes a big loop, and see it's adjustable. You can pull on the working yarn and it pulls it back down. Don't pull it too far though, because it will pull right out and you'll lose that stitch. I just pull it out so I don't lose it. We're going to do a stitch count. So the stitches look like V's, and there's 2 loops in each stitch, you can see. There's the V, and there'll be 6 of these going around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And like I said, there's 2 loops in each stitch, and when you go through the next row, when you push your hook through, you go underneath those 2 loops. Just underneath. Every time you go through, you want to make sure you have 2 loops of that stitch on top of your hook. Now we're going to crochet on, we're going to stick our hook back in there and pull the working yarn and pull that stitch back down. We're going to put 2 single crochets in each one of those 6 stitches. The starting yarn tail, you can leave it hanging and we can cut it up a little bit shorter, or we can crochet around it to hide it. Before we do that, just make sure that you have no center gap, so just pull on it and we'll get rid of that center gap. So we're going to crochet around it to get rid of it. I'm going to go through our first stitch of the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to put 2 single crochets in each one of those 6 stitches, going through both loops of that stitch. Now grab that starting yarn tail and hold it over your hook. Grab your working yarn and pull it through. You have 2 loops on your hook, grab the yarn again and pull it through. And there was 1 single crochet in the first stitch. We're going to go back in the same stitch we were just in and do the same thing. Pull the yarn through. You have 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through those 2 loops. There was 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Now we're going to go into the second stitch, pushing through, hold the starting yarn tail over your hook, crochet around it. There was 1, going back in that same stitch, and there's 2. Going into the third stitch now, pushing through both loops of that stitch, hold the starting yarn tail over, and crochet around it. There's 1. Going back in, and there's 2. Going into the fourth, one and 2. Going into the fifth, 1 and 2. And now last stitch of the row, number 6, pushing through, 1 and 2. And then we're finished row 2, and now we have 12 stitches around. We can cut free from that starting yarn tail now. We've crocheted around it and it's hidden away. Just want to make sure you're not going to cut any of your working yarn. And now you should have 12 of those V's going around. So there's 1, 2, 3 all the way around, and the 12th one is right here in front of this knot. We're going to continue on to row 3. Before we do that, we're going to add a marker. I just use a piece of yarn of a different color. Please be aware if you use the same thing that it can get pulled out along the way and then you lose your spot. So I'm just going to go through that last stitch I just put in, push through, grab that marker and pull one strand through and leave the other one hanging. Looks like that. We just marked off the last stitch of the row, and we're going to move this marker at the end of every row. So we finished row 2, we put 2 single crochets in each one of our 6 stitches, and now we have 12 stitches around. Moving on to row 3, 1 single crochet in the first, then 2 single crochets into the second stitch. We're going to repeat that all the way around till we land on the marker. Once we land on the marker, we'll have 18 stitches around. So 1 single crochet in the first, and then 2 single crochets into the second, and then repeat 1, 2, 1, 2 all the way around. When you land on the marker, you'll be putting in 2 single crochets. Let's do the first couple sets together. 1 single crochet in the first, and now 2 single crochets into the second, and then repeat 1 single crochet in the first, and by first I mean the first stitch after the hook, and now 2 single crochets into the second. One, two, 1, 2, and keep going till you land on the marker. I'm going to speed up this row. I'm just going to the end of the row, 1 single crochet in the first, and now 2 into the second. It's going to land on that marker, so I'll just pull it out and put in 2 single crochets. And there we finished row 3, and now we have 18 stitches around. We're going to move the marker. We just finished row 3. We're moving on to row 4, 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch, and then you repeat all the way around. When you land on the marker, you'll have 24 stitches around. 1 single crochet in the first, 1 single crochet into the second stitch, and now 2 single crochets into the third, and then repeat 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2 all the way around. When you land on the marker, you'll be putting in 2 single crochets. I'll do the first set with you, and then I'll let you pause the video. 1 single crochet in the first, 1 single crochet into the second stitch, and now 2 single crochets into the third. And now you're going to repeat that sequence to the marker, and you can pause the video now and hit play again once you land on the marker. Welcome back. I'm just coming to the end of row 4, 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and 2 is going to land on that marker, so I'll pull it out and put 2 single crochets. And that's the end of row 4, and now we have 24 stitches around, and you'll notice that the piece is starting to fold upwards. If you keep working this way, it's eventually going to just turn itself right inside out, and you'll be working on the wrong side. So that's the inside, and that's the outside. So we need to stop and just push the inside inward. And now we're working on the right side again. Move the marker. We just finished row 4, and we have 24 stitches around. Moving on to row 5, 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, then 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. When we land on the marker, we'll have 30 stitches. You can see how repetitive crochet is. We're just going to put 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into the fourth, and then repeat 1 in the next 3, 2 into the fourth, and keep repeating. When you land on the marker, you'll be putting in 2 single crochets. And you can pause the video now, and we'll meet back here when we land on the marker. Welcome back. I just finished row 5, and now I have 30 stitches around. I've moved my marker. I'm going to show you the written pattern again. Rows 6 to 12 is 1 single crochet in each one of those 30 stitches for 7 rows. Now some people get confused by that because they don't realize they're supposed to include number 6 in that row count. So by the time you've finished row 6, that's 1 completed row. So when you get to the end of row 12, you have completed 7 complete rows. So what I did when I was first learning to crochet, so I didn't have to keep track in my head, I would put my single crochets in for 1 row, and then I would put a notch on my notepad or on my pattern. So with a pen, just put a little notch, and then every time I move this marker, I'd put a notch on my notepad. So do the same, and when you have 7 notches, we'll meet back here. And remember, if your piece starts folding up, just stop and turn it right side. So you'll be putting 1 single crochet in each one of those 30 stitches for 7 completed rows. You can pause the video now and we'll meet back here at the end of row 12. Welcome back. We are at the end of row 12 and I've already moved my marker. I'm going to show you how to do a row count just in case you've lost your way. Doing the row count just means you count the rings. Always count behind your marker because if you count in front it kind of dips down here. So if you count in front of your marker, because it dips down it's going to throw you off by 1. So count behind the marker and we start here with row 1. That's the loop that we started off with. That's row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 at the end of row 12. Now I designed my bunnies for yarn eyes. If you wanted to use safety eyes, you definitely can do that. The last stitch I just put in, I'm going to make that the back of the head. And I'm going to put these in between the 8th and 9th row. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And you want to put these in before you start decreasing the round, so you can still work in here quite easy. And placement is just a suggestion. You can put them anywhere you want to. I would put about 4 stitch holes between them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right here. Then you want to make sure that you're super happy with where they're at before you put the backs on, because once you put the backs on, you can't get them apart. And like I said, we're going to do yarn eyes at the end, so I'm not going to be putting eyes in right now. Now we're going to start decreasing the round. So when you increase the round, that means you put 2 single crochets into 1 stitch. Every time you put 2 single crochets into 1 stitch, you've increased the round by 1 stitch. So that means you've turned 1 stitch into 2. Now we're going to decrease the round. So we're going to be crocheting 2 stitches together. When you crochet 2 stitches together, you turn them into 1 stitch. So we're going to do 2 ways of decreasing. The first way is my favorite way. It's called the single crochet 2 together, and it's quick and easy. And if you have a tighter tension like I do, it works great. So let's do that one first. In this pattern, I'm doing 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then I'm going to crochet 2 stitches together. So 1 in the next 3. And now crocheting 2 together, single crochet 2 together. I'm just going to go in the next stitch like I normally would, grab the yarn and pull it through. Leave that loop on my hook and go into the next stitch, grab my yarn and pull it through. Now I have 3 loops on my hook. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. I have always found that a wonderful way of decreasing, and I've never had an issue with that one. So let's try it one more time. 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and now single crochet the next 2 stitches together. So for many of you, that method's going to work great as well. For me, I've always used it. That's the only method I use to decrease. Some of you, as you're decreasing, if you use that method, will start to see gaps in your work, or you'll start to see unsightly little bumps. If you're one of those people, then you can use the invisible decrease. So let's do that same sequence. 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to crochet 2 together. And it's done a little bit differently. So now we're going to crochet the next 2 together. This time we're going to go through the front loop only. So just go through the front loop, and now immediately go into the next stitch and go through the front loop. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2. Now yarn over and pull through those last 2. And that's the invisible decrease. Let's try it one more time. 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Going through the front loop only. And immediately going into the next front loop. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Now yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. So that one takes a little bit more getting used to, and if you use that consistently through your entire pattern, you will end up with a visible line in your work. So that's why I never use that method, but a lot of people love that method and swear by it. So it's all personal preference, whatever you find easiest for you and whatever works for you, that's the way that you should do it. So let's do the single crochet 2 together again. So now I'm doing the single crochet 2 together. Going to go through both loops, pull the yarn through, both loops, pull the yarn through. I have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. We'll end the row with an invisible decrease. one in the next 3. So my next 2 together is going to land on that marker, so I'll pull it out. And now we're doing the invisible decrease under that first front loop, and then immediately under the next front loop. Pull the yarn through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the last 2 loops. And there we go. So that's the end of row 13, and I've moved my marker. We're going to decrease in row 14 again, this time 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then crochet 2 together. Repeat all the way around. When you land on the marker, you should be crocheting 2 stitches together. So like I said, there's 2 different ways that you can do this, and it's just a matter of finding the way that works best for you. I'm going to continue on using the single crochet decrease, because that's my favorite way. And if it doesn't work for you, then of course, then you use the invisible decrease. So I'll continue on with the pattern, and I will meet you back here when we land on the marker. You can pause the video. Welcome back. You should be at the end of row 14, and you should have 18 stitches around. I've brought in my stuffing because in the next row, after we finish this row, we're going to stuff the bunny together. So for this row, we're going to put 1 single crochet in the first, and then crochet 2 together, and repeat all the way around. When you land on the marker, you'll be crocheting 2 stitches together. So let's just do this row together real quick. I'm not going to slow right down, so if I do go too fast, then just pause the video and catch up. 1 single crochet, and then 2 together. One single crochet in the next, and then 2 together. One single crochet and 2 together. Keep repeating to the marker. And there we go, we're finished row 15. Now we're going to pull out our last stitch with our hook. Just pull it, leave a great big loop like this. You don't want to risk pulling this all out and then you'll lose your stitches. Now we're going to stuff the bunny. So we're just going to get some stuffing and pushing it in there. And with acrylic yarn you can shape as you stuff. So you want to have a nice round ball, of course. So when you're stuffing the bunny, I just push it in and push it into all the sides. I'm just rotating the piece, pushing it into the sides. You can take some more. You can see it eats up a lot of stuffing, especially more so if you have acrylic yarn because it has some stretch to it. And still some more. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to do the next row, and then I'm going to stuff some more in if I need it. I just want the majority in there. You can see it can take more stuffing, but it's going to be easier for me to not stuff it right up until I finish the next row. So I'm going to move my marker. And row 16 is 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 together, and repeat all the way around. Let's do this row together. So I'm just going to push the stuffing down and out of my way. I'm going to squeeze the body together. It's going to make it much easier for me to get my hook in there. Now 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Rotate. And now 2 stitches together. Rotate again. 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Whoops. And now 2 together. And this is the very bottom of the bunny. I think if the single crochet 2 together is easier for you, then just do that because you're not going to see the bottom of the body anyway. 1 single crochet in the next 2. And here's the last 2 going in. Pull out that marker and crochet 2 together. And we are done. Woohoo! And there we go. So now we're going to pull out our last stitch again, leave it hanging. We're going to break free, and we're going to leave a tail for sewing up the rest of this gap, and also for making indents in the eyes if that's what you want. You don't have to do that part, but in case you do, leave a little bit of a yarn tail for that. Now we're going to pull the yarn tail through that loop, get it down to about here, and then pull tight. So I'm using my blunt end yarn needle. I believe this is a size 13. It doesn't matter which size you have as long as it does the job. I'm going to bend over the end of my yarn. This makes it easier for threading, and push that bend through the eye of the needle and pull it through. Now I'm going to weave in and out of these remaining stitches. So you just go through and then back through the other way in the next stitch. You can do it this way, weaving in and out of those remaining stitches all the way around to where you started. And don't pull this tight yet. We're going to be sticking some more stuffing in there as needed, and I do need a little bit more in there. If you can't get your finger in, the back end of a pencil or the back end of your crochet hook, if you have one like I do, works great. I think that's good. I don't have to stuff any more in there. It's a nice shape. So now what I'll do is I'm going to pull on this to close the gap. Pull tight, close that gap. I'm going to hang on to it. I'm just going to knot off. So I'm going to pick a stitch right close by, bring it through, and before pulling it all the way through, go through that loop. And if you feel like it's loose, just do it again somewhere close by. Go through that loop, whoops, and pull tight. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of part 1. If you don't want to be making indents for the eyes, which is given in part 2, what you'd be doing with this yarn tail, after you knot it off, you just carry it away from that area, pull on it slightly, and cut, and then it springs back on the body, and you're done with that part. If you're adding those indents, don't cut your yarn tail, leave it long. In part 2, we're also going to add the nose, we're going to add the color for the eyes. I'll also show you how to do the blush and all that good stuff to finish up the face. So now you're going to hit that link that's popping up your screen, and I'll meet you over there.